Still here, still dying to bring you the news. It's the New Eden Times News Network. I'm No Style Fred, and today I interviewed HAEGE Estidal, leader of the Sleep Reapers Alliance. Please introduce yourself.
My name is HAEGE Estidal. I'm the leader of Sleep Reapers. We are a neutral alliance aligned to no one in the southeast of New Eden. We reside in Tenerife, holding 2 constellations and 14 systems. We're a small alliance that does things different. Our goal is to create a place in Eve where you're allowed to do what you want to do, fly what you want to fly, who holds no ties to anybody, gets in fights, enjoys those fights, loses when we lose, wins when we win, and has the most fun we can without taxing the shit out of you.
Why did you leave your previous alliance to start your own?
There's too much red tape, too much bureaucracy, too much leadership sits in a room and jerks themselves off, and too little actually going on, and the concerns of the member base didn't matter to the leadership of the alliance itself.
How did you choose your headquarters location?
Well, me personally, I've lived pretty much everywhere in Eve at some point or another. I've been a part of every group at some point or another. Flown with PanFam, flown with Goons, flown with Init, flown with Brave, flown with Test. At some point or another, I've been in every major power in the game at some point or another. But my history down here more is due, well, not my history, but the history of the Alliance was more brought here because of the Southeastern Agreement that was put into enactment last year, trying to enable small alliances to exist in the game and not have to be a part of sort of the 2 big blocks or their subsidiary children.
How are the relations with your neighbors?
So it's interesting you ask that. The Southeast has been a wild time over the last year. I don't know how much you know about the Southeastern Agreement, but early last year, it was put into effect after Fire Coalition, which was a coalition of multiple alliances in the South, was kicked out by pandemic hoarding goons for basically repeatedly bullying smaller groups that were trying to get started in the game. They were evicted from the area, completely had all of the Sovereign buildings blown up, and the 2 big blocks being the Imperium and PandaFam kind of made an agreement that the southeast corner of the map would be for small alliances only, and that people who wanted to live in those areas would be allowed to live there, and then it would be fights between small groups in the south. That's when we took the opportunity to come down here. We made a brief stint in Faith Tabilis, the region right below Tenerife on the map, but we were met by people there who did not want us living there, who were far too big numbers for us to fight, and instead transitioned to Tenerife to stay. We've been in Tenerife in the spot that we've been in for about 8 months now, almost 9. And in that time, we have seen many players come and go. Till Doomsday was a large alliance down here. They were here, they were killed, they fell off, they broke apart, they went their other ways, they left. There's been groups that have come and gone, and the entire landscape of the Southeast has changed dramatically on multiple occasions.
Being so far from a trade hub, do you import or manufacture your goods?
So being an alliance in nullsec means, in a lot of ways, creating self-reliance. Most stuff we can just build ourselves. Now, the way that the game's mechanics work inherently makes it so that there's not really a lot you can do about getting high sec or low sec ore in null. There is ways to get it, but it's in small patches, and we do have to import kind of high sec and low sec ore into our space to be able to build things. But outside of that, we're relatively self-reliant. We build our own ships, we build our own modules for those ships, we build all of our own equipment, we do our own drugs, everything that you kind of need, we kind of build ourselves. From, like I said, the base up, from a gun on a ship to a station for people to be able to dock it.
Well, it appears you are all thriving out here.
Thriving is a relatively interesting term. If there was anything I would say, it would be that being an alliance in nullsec is expensive as shit. Being an alliance that doesn't grotesquely tax moons is even more expensive. Being an alliance that doesn't nickel and dime your people over what they're doing all the time is ridiculously expensive. And it has come at a absolutely ludicrous cost to the people who have put in money to get us to where we're at. But we're here, and money can definitely be made in null. I mean, people make plenty of money. The ratting sites are pretty lucrative. Gas huffing is insanely lucrative. Moons are pretty damn lucrative. There's a lot of money to be made as a member, but it is always a project to pay all the bills and get things rolling.
While I was invited down here, what happens if someone shows up unannounced?
If it's not blue, shoot it. That's the ruling that we have. It's very simple. MBSI. If it's not blue, you shoot it.
Have any larger groups attempted to demand you join or fight them?
Interestingly enough, that happens more often than you would think. We had an instance not long ago where a bigger alliance came and fought us. We did hold them off and found a treaty to be had. But as a whole, it kind of happens that way. We've been approached by organizations to just become a part of them, to roll our alliance closed, and to just become a part of a bigger alliance and try to work under them. But that'll not really ever be a thing for us, because as I said again, I want to create a place in EVE unlike any other place, where people are allowed to play the game the way they want to play them, where there's not strat ops and CTAs and people constantly harassing you to pay your taxes, pay your bills. No, you can't do that. Yes, you can do that. Half the game's blue to you. You can only shoot these people. We're going to go do this thing. No, you can't take this big fun toy out. No, you have to have all of these skills trains and all these pre-requirements and all this other shit to be able to do what you really want to do. I'm not a part of any of that. To be quite blunt, I'm the opposite of that. We live in the Wild West of the Southeast, and it should be the Wild West. You want to undock a dreadnought and go run a crab beacon? Go for it. You want to go take your shit and be able to go do that? Go for it. You want to be in a small gang fight and then make the small gang fight unfair and use a fax to be able to rep your ships? Go for it. Whatever you want to do with your ships is your risk, and that's your business, not the leadership of an alliance to dictate to you what you're allowed and not allowed to do with your ISK.
Has this stance caused any unwanted conflict?
War declarations happen mostly from the two big ones that basically war deck the entire game. some point or another with SRS or Black Flag being those entities who just constantly are war decking random people for the hell of it so that they can gank them in Cheetah and Amar and such. But outside of that, we don't really deal with war decks. That'll happen occasionally when they get to us down the list, but otherwise those usually don't last very long and they're not usually a thing. And then as for, like I said, my neighbors coming, we had one group that came less than a month ago and made a run at us. That didn't exactly go the way that they would have hoped, and we ended up coming to an agreement. They kind of went back and found a different target and decided to hit something else and do something else. But, I mean, wars are wars. You live in the South, you have to be able to defend yourself. You have to be able to be ready to fight for your space and do everything you can to, do those things.
Do you plan to expand in the future?
Like I stated earlier, to be pretty blunt about it, I have no reason for any more space at this point. I have enough space right now to support plenty of people. We're actively recruiting all the time to find more people. Can always use more pilots. And with that said, I'm not here to grow to rival.
Where are these large blocks located?
The two big entities, Imperium and PandaFam, are kind of juxtaposed to each other on the map. The Imperium owns all of the southwest of the map and sort of the direct south of the map. If you're like looking at sov.space or whatever, you'll see that like the Imperium, there's an Imperium map that, not an Imperium map, there's a sov map that kind of shows the coalitions of the game. And PandaFam owns sort of the northeast, the north, and the northwest. And Imperium sort of owns the southwest and the south. And then south, the straight west, is owned by a group called Imperium, who used to be a part by a group named Initiative, not Imperium. A group called Initiative, who used to be a part of Imperium, but stepped away because they wanted to be able to have some more interesting gameplay in the game and not just be kind of lumped into the big Imperium or Goons cluster. But they're still relatively affiliated with Goons and usually choose to fight on the Goon sides in most engagement. But otherwise, yeah, and then the southeast is obviously a lot of neutral states.
Do you think they can be broken up?
I don't think that a breaking up of the big blocks is possible without major CC intervention. Without the actual developers of EVE stepping in and making large sweeping changes to the way that alliances are handled in the game as a whole, I do not believe it would be possible to dissolve them. They're too stuck in, they're too well-knit, they're too, everything a part of them is too interlaced at this point, and the game mechanics of the game make it very easy to be that interlaced. Without major CCP intervention, it'll never happen. Neither one of the two big blocks, PandaFam or Imperium, will ever lose their home sov ever for the rest of the game ever. And no one except for each other can contest them in any fight. There is no fight you can win in this game if everyone in the South, every single entity in the Southeast of the game right now. So no one in Imperium, no one in Initiative, no one in Phoenix, no one in PandaFam, no one in the game, right? Except for the people on that map that I showed you that are white in the Southeast. If all of us logged on every pilot we had, we CTA'd, got every single pilot we had, all of them got in, we perfectly coordinated them, had the best FCs to ever grace the game show up to direct the fleet. We're able to fit whatever ships we wanted in whatever way we wanted with infinite budget, we would lose in an hour or less to either of the big blocks, just on sheer number mismatch.
Do you have any comment on the SRS Fortizars that were destroyed this week?
SRS is one of the two war decking alliances in the game, the other being Black Flag. They bit off more than they could chew. They basically, a couple weeks back, made the decision to literally war deck like every nullsec alliance in the game at the same time. Like, legitimately, like every single alliance in the game concurrently. And people got fed up with getting shot in Empire space, so Amar, Cheetah, like, space, and decided to just blow up their Fortizars and tell them to fuck off because they're tired of dealing with high-sec war decks repeatedly over and over and over. You can't put structures down in high-sec anymore. There was a rule several months ago that instituted you not being able to put things in high-sec anymore. Well, they'll put new ones up after the war decks go away and they can't be touched.
Do you think SRS will rethink their approach after this?
No, they probably won't. They get their rocks off to killing mostly innocent people just trying to do indie or mine or just enjoy their day in high-sec and killing them coming through a gate. They're tyrants. They don't give a shit about politics or human decency most of the time. Their biggest deal is to just kill people coming on through. Make it easier by having war decks because then they can just attack you and not lose ships to Concord or the such because you're technically at war.
What does an ideal sleep deprivation service candidate look like to you?
Honestly, we're uniquely placed in a spot that kind of allows for all of it. There is better new player experience in the game than I can offer. I'll be blunt. Brave is a much better experience. Goons is a much better experience. PanFam has a much better new player experience. EVE University has a much better new player experience in the game than I can potentially offer. With that said, we have a new player program. We hand out ships specifically that they'll be able to fly within a day or two. We walk them through how they would rat down here to get that money, how much it takes to be able to flex your account so you're not spending real money, how you get in on those things, assist them getting, on the ground floor of that. And we have that. But, mostly intermediate and, we're looking for the whole gambit, but intermediate pilots will enjoy the game the most where we are. Angel rats are not the nicest to rat on. They're kind of brutal, but it is easy. It is doable as a new. But intermediate players that can fly Ishtars, that can fly Marauders, that are have those things at their fingertips, they can choose to use those.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not necessarily. Keep your head up. Things are crazy in the Southeast. Constant political juxtaposing, constant movement of groups being here, not being here. The interesting engagement of the two big groups, PandaFam and the Imperium, and how involved or uninvolved they are in fights that are down here. The disappearance of groups that were here, not being down here anymore, is crazy. I wish I could show you like a 1 year sort of, transition page of a SOV map, so you could see just how many entities came and fell and disappeared over just a 1 year time. Because it's wild. entire giant groups owning shitloads of space have come and gone and fallen by the wayside. And EVE, in its core, is a lot of politics. A lot of getting people, talking to those people, figuring out what works for everybody, and figuring out where that goes. And also being ready to go to war when those things don't work.